Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. We are involved in a review and refutation of Joel Richardson's book, Mystery Babylon, Unlocking the Bible's Greatest Prophetic Mystery. Mr. Richardson believes that Babylon of Revelation is nothing other than the Islamic capital of Mecca, and that one day in the ostensibly near future, then Babylon and Islam is going to begin a horrific persecution of the Jews and of Christians and will be destroyed at the second coming. Now, we have been examining Mr. Richardson's claims, and I have demonstrated for you how his hermeneutic is absolutely fatally flawed. He rips passages completely and totally out of their historical context. He ignores the fact that John is told at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the book, over and over and over again, that the fulfillment of the prophecy of that book was at hand. It was coming quickly, shortly to come to pass. Shortly come to pass does not mean 2,000 years. And thus, on that basis alone, Mr. Richardson's entire book is falsified. Now, in order to keep our study and our examination somewhat brief, and this is video number 16, what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks is examining Mr. Richardson's reasons, if they can be called that, reasons for rejecting Jerusalem as Babylon of Revelation. And I must tell you, in his reasons that we want to look at today, you will seldom find anything that is weaker, more illogical, more non-scriptural, and non-historical than what Mr. Richardson says. I'm reading from page 149, and he says, quote, "The relationship of the woman and the beast is also a factor that excludes Jerusalem from being Babylon. Preterists argue that the leadership of Jerusalem was in an illicit relationship with Rome and thus fulfilled the description of the prophecy. In making this argument, they overlook a few serious problems. First, the relationship with Rome that Jerusalem enjoyed had significantly deteriorated by the middle of the 50s. Yet, preterists claim the book of Revelation was written in the mid-60s, by which time the relationship had soured completely. So even if the preterist earlier dating of Revelation were accurate, it would still mean that Revelation was predicting something that had already happened. That doesn't make any sense. Second, the relationship of the woman is portrayed as enjoying with the beast is a very close relationship, something much more intimate than anything Jerusalem ever experienced with Rome. Well, let's talk about the first objection first. The relationship with Rome that Jerusalem enjoyed had significantly deteriorated by the middle of the 50s. Well, there's a kernel of truth there. When you look at Josephus and you read the history of Judea under the Roman procurators, even during the 50s, it was truly a horrific situation. However, what Mr. Richardson is conveniently overlooking is that Revelation is not talking about simply deterioration of relationship. It is talking about a partnership of persecution against the saints. The woman, Babylon, and the beast, and the woman rides the beast. It's not simply talking about relations going bad. It is talking about, first of all, a partnership of persecution between the woman and the beast. Now the question is, did such a relationship exist between Jerusalem and Rome? And the answer to that, unequivocally, is yes. Adolf Harnack, in his Expansion and Mission of Early Christianity, says, unless the evidence is misleading, it was the Jews who instigated the Neronian persecution of the church. William Barclay, in his book on the letters to the seven churches, says the same thing. It was the Jews who instigated the Romans. And by the way, he takes note of the fact that Nero's wife, Poppaea, that his favorite actor, Alcitarus, if that's pronounced correctly, his entire inner circle of influence and advisors, most of them at least, were Jews. And they influenced him to turn against Christians and to persecute Christians. There's your partnership of persecution. And then it was under Nero that partnership between Rome and Jerusalem against the church went sour. Jerusalem rebelled, and guess what? Nero sent Titus to destroy Jerusalem. And so this argument that, hey, relationship between Jerusalem and Rome had soured as early as the 50s is really a straw man. This revelation is talking about a relationship that went completely sour, and the beast turned on the woman and destroyed her. Now there's something else here that you have to understand. There is this partnership of persecution between Babylon and the beast. Well, guess what? Rome never persecuted the church in the mid-50s. Period. And thus when Paul, for instance, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, spoke of those who are troubling you, those who are persecuting you, he wasn't talking about the Romans persecuting the Christians. He was talking about the Jews persecuting the Christians. And even at that time, well, there may not have been an active partnership between Jerusalem and Rome. There was a tacit relationship because the Romans essentially turned a blind eye to the Jewish persecution of the church. But guess what? In 64 AD, Rome turned on Jerusalem, destroyed her, burned her with fire, just like Revelation chapter 17 describes. This is not, by the way, a description of Islam persecuting Jews. It is Babylon and the beast persecuting Christians. And that destroys and negates Mr. Richardson's, really, his entire premise. But then he says, second, the relationship the woman is portrayed as enjoying with the beast is a very close relationship, something much more intimate than anything Jerusalem ever experienced with Rome. Now the question here is, where in the book of Revelation is there an in-depth description of the relationship between Babylon and the beast? It's not there. All that we are told is Babylon, the beast, or woman, rides the beast. Where is any description of intimacy? It's not there. This is what you call eisegesis. It's not exegesis. It is reading something into the text that's not there, and once it's read into the text, you're going, see, this proves or disproves that Jerusalem is Babylon posit. Extremely weak and false argument. Let me reiterate something because this is so critical. When Mr. Richardson denies the partnership of persecution between Jerusalem and Rome, he is in outright denial of history. And for him to suggest that, well, the relationship between Jerusalem and Rome had started going sour in the 50s, well, guess what? That souring of relationship had nothing to do with a partnership of persecution. Nothing. And thus these two, quote, reasons, unquote, that Mr. Richardson offers us to reject Jerusalem as Babylon, they are weaker than rainwater. They have absolutely no textual or historical merit to them whatsoever. Look, let me recommend to you that you get a copy of my book, Who is This Babylon? I discuss this partnership of persecution between Babylon and the beast in depth in this book. And although I certainly was not addressing Mr. Richardson's book, you will nonetheless be able to see an absolute wealth of material that completely and totally falsifies his claim that Babylon of Revelation was Islamic Mecca. You will see for yourself with this abundance of evidence, biblical evidence, textual evidence, historical evidence, that Babylon of Revelation was none other than Old Covenant Jerusalem. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com, order the book. Be sure to send me a note that you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll refund your shipping. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. You have a fantastic weekend. Hope to see you on Monday.